so we've been, sorry, I'm a little nervous. So we've been trying to replicate what we had a few blocks away because our customers have been asking for an extended spot so that they can enjoy the food that we provide. So we're essentially here today to hopefully have permission to move forward.
Assuming there's nobody else that's going to speak on this matter, just to answer Don's question, real quickly, we did go through the process and we did determine that the committee, as it was the committee, where the 12 feet complete sidewalk. So we've seen the plans, we've seen the drawings, and we had no objections to it. With that said, I'm going to go directly to a vote, and I'll read the resolution. Resolved.
It was on page 3. Page 3, number 1.
Resolved in the recommendation of the Housing and Zoning Committee of Bronx Community Board 10 that the ULURP number N190385 ECX DCA number 43082019-8SWC, an application from Nicole Sidewalk Cafe consisting of 22 tables, 44 chairs for Katzman, 1650 Inc. DBA Pelham Delight Bakery, 1650 Crosby Avenue, 10461, to be scheduled for a public hearing on September 26, 2019. And the board's vote to be forwarded to New York City Department of Consumer Affairs as well as the City Council. With that said, we have a motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye. Keep your hands up so we can mark it.
Any nays? Opposed? I got one. Dorothy, was that enough?
Yes, he didn't know what we were doing.
No, motion, yes, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, oh, yes, absolutely.
So I have no nays, no one opposes.
No.
With that said, it passes. Thank you. At this time, we'll close the public hearing on this matter, and we'll move on to full board hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't miss the exception. You'll say, my apologies on that. So should I have one extensions?
Okay, thank you.
So we'll have a motion to close the public hearing on this matter?
Motion to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So, motion to continue with the Housing and Zoning meeting, which is, we're gonna, on page 3, I have two resolutions. Everyone agrees on that? Yes. So have one? I'm gonna go to the minutes real quickly. The committee had discussed it at 1610 Eastchester Road, which is one of the resolutions we're going to read. I just want to bring everyone up to speed with that. At one point, there was a gas station, Hess gas station, and they're looking to replace with a similar gas station. Obviously, it's not Hess. There's going to be another gas station there. There's no change in the plans. More or less, it's going to remain the way it is. The curb cuts and everything else, it stays in place the way it is, so the committee had no objections on that. With that said, I'm going to read the resolution on that matter.
With the BSA calendars, then we'll have a public hearing.
Oh, you're correct. On that matter, I'm sorry, that one is not a resolution, that one's just a BSA hearing. We'll have it, and then we'll have a public hearing to let everybody know on that matter. Resolved, the recommendation of the Housing and Zoning Committee of the Bronx Community Board Number 10, that New York City Department of Buildings request for a letter of support for the construction application submitted by the property owner at 81 Rochelle Street, Bronx, New York, Bronx 10461, to be forwarded to the full board for approval. This approval would be conditional, barring no objection from the resident. That gentleman was supposed to have a letter provided to us prior to this. Did you bring one in?
Yes, and also 2 out of 3 made contact with me, and they were both approved the project.
So at this point, the neighbors have no...
10464.
Then it's never typo. It should be 10464. 10464, and then it's corrected. With that said, do I have a motion on the floor?
Motion.
Second.
No, you're not getting
All in favor?
Aye.
If you're opposed, just say your name.
Anyone opposed?
If you abstain, say your name.
Any abstentions?
Thank you.
With that said, it passes. Thank you. That ends me. Thank you.
All right, we're on to the full board meeting. Before we begin with the public participation, just a couple of comments. Just remember, representatives, you get 3 minutes as a public speaker. Also, from a meeting conduct standpoint, I will remind everyone again, personal attacks against a board member, staff member, member of the public, and or elected officials or their representatives or their representative will result in the individual being asked to leave the meeting or could result in the meeting's closure. Any outbursts from the public after the public speaking portion of the meeting has been closed out will result in the individuals being asked to leave the meeting. If outbursts or attacks continue, this will be considered disturbing the peace, and the authority shall be summoned. All speakers must address and face the board members with concerns, no solicitation or electioneering. And again, remember, we're all here for the same reason. We're all here for the betterment of our community. So we may disagree on certain things, but let's maintain proper decorum. So we can all do that. Before we begin, we have Deputy Chief Raul Pintos here from the Police Department to talk about staffing, and want to give him an open forum to address us. So I'll turn it over to him first, and then we'll begin the public participation. Deputy Chief.
Thank you. Do you have a question? Because I was here to address issues of personnel. So if you asked me to start with a question, that'd be the best way to start.
One second. Thank you for coming, and I'll send out that. A long-standing request from the community board has been, how can we get more police officers? So we have community board geographic district, you probably know it better than I. But a question we never got answered is why we can't get them. And I want to point to ComStat, and I gave it to all the board members, you should all have a copy in front of them. This particular year, I believe we're up in around 9 or 10 categories up for the year. And my understanding is that crime does not always dictate how many officers are assigned to a precinct. So I want everyone to be mindful of that. So I wanted to invite Deputy Chief Pintos to explain that even if crime is increasing perhaps this year, what necessitates a police increase? And throughout the summer, I was trying to dispel a rumor that I found out was true, that we lost more than 6 or nearly 9 police officers. So I wanted to make everyone aware that we may have recovered some, but I want to learn more publicly about how many we're supposed to have, how many did we have last year, and what's the year-to-year change with turnover, retirement, maternity, paternity. So I just wanted him to come here to explain those resources. And if anyone has questions, just wait until he's finished and we can probably get them answered. Thank you.
Well, I'll deal with the resource question before that. Let me let Catherine talk about the crime stats, because you say we're up in 9 categories. We only have 7 categories to begin with. So what do you?
What I did is I combined what is on the top column and the bottom. And
No, I'll let the captain talk about that, and then I'll take on the other question about personnel.
Great.
Good evening.
Captain Fraser, welcome, please.
Sorry. Before I start.
Stole my thunder.
Okay, in terms of stats, I don't want to put anyone to sleep, but we're actually down 1% in felony index crime for year-to-date 2019 versus 2018. So it's a 1% decrease in the 7 major felony index crime categories. For the 28th day, which is how we measure ourselves 28-day versus last year, the same 28-day period, approximately 4 weeks, we're down 16%. Our major and only significant increase is grand theft auto, which is about 60% increase in the 28-day, which is mostly newer Honda models. So that's our driving, what's driving our felony index crime number is grand theft auto. Pretty much everything else, we're either even or actually decreasing crime. Thank you.
So now again, so the personnel question, you want to be more specific about the, you want to know?
Sure, what defines a precinct assignment?
Okay, so that's a formula that I don't know what the formula is, but I would tell you that I know it includes, it includes a few things. Obviously includes population, 911 calls, what are the other factors? Projected attrition for that particular precinct in terms of retirements. Huh?
Projected as a retirement.
Yeah, so projected attrition is one of the factors. So we have population, we have crime stats, left that out, 911 calls, and projected attrition for the coming year. So we know that if 20 years ago we hired 2,000 police officers, we know that those 2,000 police officers are going to be scheduled but could retire, say, this year. They don't all retire, obviously, but that's factored into this formula. Other things are factored in as well, like money, obviously, how much money they have allotted for the year to hire police officers. But I know that those 4 or 5 indicators are included in there.
So which is, like, you guys jump in if you guys want, but which is weighted? Which is the most important of the 4 or 5 that you mentioned?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you which one it is. I know population is a big factor, and 911 calls
To
are a big
the
factor.
naked eye, and I'm reviewing what's available on contract. Murder's up 2 to 0, rape is up 16 and 11, robbery 93 to 84, and I have people contact our office and say, we're up in violent crime, and I'm still not seeing I'm not seeing a patrol car on the block away.
Right, okay.
And then they say the rumor that we were down officers, and is that true? And why?
Okay, so you're trying to make a connection between crime being up and fewer police officers?
That's
okay.
what we received.
Well, okay, so the 4-5 is down police officers this year compared to last year. Every time I talk about personnel, it's a tough thing to talk about because
No,
it's not an easy thing. It's a lot of factors. So I say this year, more cops retired than the previous year. That doesn't get factored in. So there is a reduction, about 18 fewer police officers this year compared to last year. That could easily have been, more police officers retired, more police officers got promoted, more police officers went to a different assignment. So that's a recurring thing. It's never a fixed number. It goes up, it goes down. However, I will say this, that out of so there are 18 less police officers, but the 4-5 is still operating at the number of police officers necessary to do all the things we need to do. So.
Bob, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Martin, you want to go first? If it's okay with you, Bob. So, I understand and I thank you for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Councilman Mark Joe.
This community truly appreciates the men and women.
Yes.
But I believe the number is closer to 22 officers that we lost to attrition. And we still don't know the number that are injured, assigned to desk duty, that may not be. So we know that the number is closer to 22, and that doesn't take into consideration the number of officers that may be out on leave due to injury or personal matters or sick leave, as well as those that may be confined to desk duty. So I've inquired, I've even spoken to the borough commander about what dictates the number of officers that we have. And he referred to the crime stats. I'm not happy with that, knowing the needs of this community, the desires of this community. And they truly believe, and rightfully so, the more officers that we have on the street, the safer our community is. So we began a whole quest now. If it's crime stats driven only, then the crime stats at every precinct throughout the city should be in correlation to the number of officers that are located at a precinct. I've also looked into the number of 911 calls that we foiled to see how many come out from precincts. the response times, and this being the second largest geographic precinct in the city, response time, as well as 311 calls. And we take little things like a car accident that requires law enforcement response that can take hours. And that's because we don't have the number of officers. So I'm not looking to put you under the bus or on the spot here, but this community is asking for, and rightfully so, additional officers to combat against response times, safety, and any uptick. No one here feels safer today than they did 5 years ago, and the loss of 10% of the precinct is a significant number.
You know, I couldn't keep up with all the things you said, so I'm going to respectfully disagree with you on a few things. I disagree with you on a lot of things, but I only remember 2 or 3. First of all, I don't think that the people in this community feel less safer because the crime stats don't indicate that. That's fine. I mean, well, you could do your own survey, but
If you feel safe.
well, this is not the forum for that. I'm speaking in general terms. Crime being down. The other thing I disagree with you respectfully, of course, Councilor, is that you said that the only factor is crime stats, and I said before it's not. And if that's the case, crime has been down in the city for many years. There'll be fewer police officers. That's the only standard we use. So we don't use that as the only indicator. We use 911 calls, we use population. There's a lot of factors that we consider that the crime is not the only one. And I don't know if it's 10% reduction, but we have...
200 police officers, you're down 20 police.
Okay, it's about 10%, okay. But you know, again, Councilmember, that fluctuates. So if you invite me here in 2 months, we'll be up 20 police officers because
I hope so.
we put a class in, you're retired, so it's a fluctuating number. As long as it stays within the margin, then the formula we look at where it's safe and we can put up, because to be quite honest with you, the shortage of police officers not only put the public in danger, who else is to put in danger? Our cops. So we never want to put our cops in danger. So we want to make sure that our cops go out and they have other police officers to back them up. So it's a concern not just for the public, obviously, it's a concern for our cops. So I disagree with you on that. But if you have another question, I'm not sure if you lumped a lot of things together.
My question is, there should be uniformity then.
Yeah.
If it's crime stats and it's 911 calls and response times, then it's an easy formula
Right.
for us to figure out. We look at the numbers across the city, and if there's any deviation here that shows we have higher, and if there's any deviation that shows we have a higher number of crime stat results, 911 calls, and response times, I think we would be entitled to additional officers. And that's what this is about. If it's fairness, it's fairness. If this is the way the formula works, and it's fair for every precinct in every borough, and this is how the numbers are going to be allocated, we'll accept it. But I feel that we're going to see some difference in the numbers of officers at the 4-5 precinct if we use those 4 factors. And would you agree with me? If those 4 indicating factors determine the number of officers, and we can show that other precincts are lower in response time, have lower crime stats, have lower 911 calls, they should have more officers.
Yeah, I can't keep up with that formula with you. But I will tell you this, I'm not the person to speak to or answer that question. But the city council could certainly request a police force to give you clarity on that. I'm not the person to do that. Sorry.
Thank you. Any board members have a question, not a statement, a question?
Bob Eder has a question.
Okay, first of
Hold on,
all.
Bob, hold on. Please go first.
Sorry, Bob.
Oh.
She's closer to me.
I have 2 questions.
You want this?
It's okay. Can you guys hear me? I have 2 questions.
You're only allowed 1, but I let you do 2.
First question is, are the stats based on arrests or convictions?
Arrest.
Okay.
You're talking about the stats relative to arrests? You're talking about the complaints, you're talking about arrests?
Right.
Yes.
The percentages in terms of,
Yeah, the answer is based on arrest.
arrests, not convictions.
Correct.
Okay. That puts some things in perspective, right?
Mhm.
And my second question is, do you know what the procedure is or how to obtain additional officers when you lose them to attrition or people that are out for work-related injuries, anything like that? What is the procedure officers, do we have 18 lines open for payment or not? If so, how do we fill those positions?
This is a large department, so it doesn't work that way. I don't personally call the commission and have those conversations
Well,
with him.
what's the
But
procedure?
there is a unit that works for the police department that oversees that. There's a lot of smart people, way smarter than I am, who full-time look at those issues. Where we short, attrition, who's hurt, who's not, and who's retiring. They put a lot of work into it, and they use this formula that I'm not 100% sure about to staff adequately. I'm sure that funding has a lot to do with that formula. I don't know for sure. But, so does that answer your question?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
It sounds
I don't
like
have a
there's
direct line to the
specific-
commissioner to say, hey, commissioner, I'm down 18 cops. What, you have more money to hire more? It doesn't quite work that way.
Do you have hands on where the cops that you do have left are placed?
Yeah, okay, so they're assigned to precincts based out of the office from downtown when they graduate the police academy. We have I oversee personnel in the borough, so there's flexibility with me in terms of moving people around. I'll give you an example. Every, say, May or so, mid-May, Orchard Beach opens up. So we have to put together a detail of roughly 40 some odd police officers who will work full-time for the period of months that Orchard Beach is open. I have to pull, those police officers don't come from the 4-5. They come from other parts of the Bronx. And I sit down with my staff and we sort of pick a few from here, a few from there to get the 45 to go to Orchard Beach, and they run from May till, I don't know, like second week in September. So that's an example of where we move people around based on needs. We do the same thing with Yankee Stadium, same thing with the Bronx Zoo. There's a lot of things that happen in the summer that we have to staff. And not only that, we have police officers that go on vacation in the summer months. So there's a lot of consideration given to all those things I just outlined.
Rob, you have a question?
Okay.
Or two?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments and a couple of questions.
No comments.
First off, we understand that you only have a certain amount of officers borough-wide that you have control over, where they go. But when we lose through attrition, I don't know how they're replaced to the borough, because we're losing them throughout the borough then, right?
Yes.
So your numbers are being decreased as well as the precincts.
No, but, okay, so let me just stop you there, because I think it's important that I clarify this. Maybe I'm misleading you to
I'd like
think
to be
otherwise.
clear on that,
So
yes.
every couple of months, every 3 months, a police academy class gets out. And that class that gets out is the number that sort of keeps up with attrition.
Okay, so we were told we're getting 6 new officers out of the class,
Right.
although we've lost 18 through 22 through attrition. Why is that for starters?
Okay, so let me go back to the original. The 18 that you lost still puts the 4-5 at this operational level.
But we still lost 18.
No, I understand.
What you consider an operational level
Right.
is not the same as having a full staff.
I
Your
understand.
operational level says to the captain, make do with what you've got. Make your officers work a little harder. Make them a little more at risk because they don't have as many
Right.
officers. That's not acceptable
Yeah,
to this community.
what it
That's,
is.
that's not acceptable to this community. Let's stop there for a minute, okay? Because that's the major problem right there. What you say is at a level that's acceptable, well, then why did we have those additional 18 in the first place? We never should have had them, is what you're saying?
No.
That doesn't make any sense. I have one other issue. The NCO program was started. We love the NCOs. They're great. But you took what was a much smaller precinct sectors and turned it into 3 sectors, giving us 2 officers for each of these sectors. The sectors are way too large for 2 officers. We need to at least double the number of NCO officers for each of those 3 sectors, and that's got to happen immediately, because these guys are stretched so thin that when we call them on their cell phones or wherever they do respond, but they're so far out into the precinct, it's ridiculous. To have a sector in City Island be the same sector in Throgs Neck and Zerega and Castle Hill, it's way too big a territory.
Okay, let me just clarify
So
something,
that's
because
gotta
that's a
change
little
as
misleading. It's a little misleading. You're talking about 2 NCOs. That's different than 2 sector cops. Because the NCOs are not sector
The
officers.
NCOs have been separated by 3
I know,
sectors,
but that-
sector A, B, and C. The NCOs have too big a territory to do the task they were assigned to.
Okay, so
I
that,
understand there are sector cars as well, and other officers within those sectors. But the NCOs were supposed to be doing certain tasks, and the sectors they were assigned, the geographic areas that they were assigned are way too large. You can't go from Co-op City to City Island and expect that to be one sector. It doesn't work.
Duly noted. I just want to point out that the public should not feel that when we say that it's one sector to cover that, that's 2 NCOs covering a sector, but there's still one patrol sector and the several response autos on any given tour
So
to
we
answer
didn't
911
gain
calls. Okay.
That means we didn't gain anything. We had that before.
You gained 2 NCOs.
And they were 18 officers.
Bob, just to follow up with that, so when I first got to the 405 in January, I had the same concern that Bob has now, with the 10 square miles of only 3 sectors. And I did propose it downtown to there's a whole team of NCO people, I don't know what they're called, chief, but, so I did propose it, I thought it was too big. They took a look at it, they got back to me and disagreed, so, it's still kind of pending.
What a surprise.
But I do agree with you, I think it's too large for just 3 sectors, but we can plug away at it and try to keep pushing that issue, see if we can get some resolution.
Quick question over here, quick question over here.
My name is Peter Del Livio. I have a question for you, Chief.
Sure.
You've heard from the councilman, you've heard from the board, and I think you've kind of heard the rumblings of the community. Can we support our precinct commander through SRG, which is Strategic Response Group? Can we fill that to him, or can you authorize that fill as a temporary fix until we get our numbers up?
See, the problem with that is, and that's a good question, and that's a legitimate ask, if you will, but SRG is a finite number, and I'll be honest with you, this borough has 12 precincts, and some other precincts have more challenges in terms of crime than this precinct, fortunately, which is a good thing. But a lot of those extra resources are being directed to precincts where we have crime and violence as compared to maybe not so much here.
One more question, and then we'll close it up. Tom?
Hi, Captain. I know that you said you're down a lot of officers, and you understand that. You know you just love to call downtown and say, give
Yes,
some more
I love it.
guys. And you'll get the heat for them telling you we're not giving you cops. But we have an adequate amount of cops in the 45th at a certain level. We have, that's the bottom minimum you can have. If we go below that, do you ever go below that? And if so, what this community is figuring is, I say okay, your adequate number is 40 cops or 50 cops. Sometimes we have 80, sometimes we have 70, but you have no less than, say, 60. What we're looking to do here is, I'd rather see you keep those regular numbers up, so when the crime doesn't go up to a certain point where, we don't need 10 new cops now, we need 20. So give us what we need to keep it down, so we don't need the additional 20. If we have a basic number, and we have a little bit extra, it keeps the crime down, and it is working, we are doing the crime down here. I don't want to see the crime start to go up where now we need 20 guys instead of 10.
Tom, it fluctuates. Last year, you had 18 more cops, so you had a big buffer. This year went down because 18 more cops retired. So we see what happens when the next class gets out, maybe it goes back up, and you'll be a plus 20, a plus 18.
But you're never below that.
No, we're not, if we're below that, and I tell you this, Tom, being below that number is very concerning to him and to me because that puts cops in danger. So we are very plugged into that, but it's a fluid number. Last year, we had an 18 buffer, to make your point. Just this year, more cops retired or got transferred or got promoted. We can't foresee if the 405 has a bunch of smart cops and 25 of them took the sergeant's test and all 25 of them get promoted, then we have a deficit. We have to fill that in as soon as possible.
But you have a minimum.
We do have a minimum. Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Deputy Chief, thank you. Captain, thank you. One last question from my side. How many officers do you have right now in the precinct? What's our current staff?
You guys class,
Just give me a number, just give me a number, you can,
Okay, 105.
Okay, total, police officers, total is about 200, police officers, rank 132.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you both, and again, you're more welcome to stick around for the rest of the festivities.
We gotta mature the 4 or 5.
All right,
That's a good answer.
thank you both.
Before you leave, perhaps the senator would like to say a few words?
Senator Bailey?
A few words. Sorry. So, welcome back to community board, back to school, back to everything, back to renewed civic engagement. For those of you who don't know me, I'm State Senator Jamal Bailey. I represent the 36th Senatorial District, covering the Northeast, Northwest Bronx, and the city of Mount Vernon, and the part of CB10 that I represent is Co-op City. So, happy birthday, Bishop Rosario. Hyper-local shout-outs at their best. I just want to also recognize Captain Frazier for not only the stellar work he's doing with 4 or 5, but there was an unfortunate incident many of you may have heard of on White Plains Road on 215th Street with a young girl. Unfortunately, it was she left this earth before her time due to an errant driver, and Captain Frazier was on the scene, and I have to say, you got a great one here in the 4-5, and we know that. But he calmed the situation down. He made sure that too many people weren't near the scene of the crime. It was policing 101. So, Captain, thank you for what you do. Councilman, my good partner in government, Councilman Mark Jonah, always good to see you. Thank you for all the work that you do about the sidewalks. And you probably told them about how homeowners are finally going to get some relief. No, but that's the city's work, so I'm going to let the councilman get into that. But he was a part of that, along with our mayor and our speaker Hasty, making sure that homeowners are going to get some relief. So our councilman is going to give you more information about that shortly. I wanted to tell you about a few things that are happening that my office is doing. One, we're still collecting donations for the Bahamas. Hurricane Dorian ravaged the Bahamas, and we sent our first donation out today. And up until October 11th, you can come to my district office located at 959 East 233rd Street. And non-perishable goods, canned goods, water, anything that you can bring would be greatly appreciated. If you saw the island of Abaco, it was decimated, and we are trying every single day to make sure we get folks back up where they need to be. That's the first thing. The second thing is there's a shredded event. It's not in CB10, it's in CB7. It's at DeWitt Clinton High School. It's on, what day is it on again? September 28th. So if you have old documents that need to be shredded, rather than throwing them away, I think that is very real, folks. I know that you know what it is. You can go over there and just bring whatever documents you want to have shredded. You can bring them over to DeWitt Clinton High School on Schuler Parkway. And the final event that's happening on October 11th, I do something called the Senior Walk. And we have 2 locations, one in the Williams Ridge Oval, and the second one that we're going to have is in Co-op City. It's a great event. Seniors get to walk around the Greenway, and I have a saying is, if health is wealth, you don't want to go bankrupt, right? So one of the things about making sure that we keep the positive, the deposits in the positive, are getting out, being active, especially for our seniors, especially in Co-op City, the largest naturally occurring retirement community in America. So we want to make sure our seniors in Co-op and beyond are coming. So you don't have to be my constituent. You don't have to live in a 36, although I wish you all moved to my district. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can still come to any event that I have. Other than that, we're starting session again up in Albany in January. So we've got some time, and if there are any legislative ideas that many of you have, you can reach out to my office directly, or Ashley, who's generally at the CB10 meetings when I'm not here. And that is essentially it. I want to thank you all for allowing me the courtesy of coming up and speaking. I'm trying to do my community board world tour tonight. I want to thank my deputy chief of staff, London Lady, my chief of staff's arm, London. But no, seriously, I just wanted to let you know that my office is here for you if there's anything that you may need, and just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Since Councilmember Zero will ask Councilmember Jonah to fill us on street repairs.
Thank you, Chair. So just quickly, because I'm here to talk about one specific issue, and Farrah from my office is going to let you know of all the other events and activities that are going on that we're sponsoring. But I do want to thank the state senator. The tree and sidewalk replacement program wouldn't have been possible without the cooperation and insistence of Speaker Carl Hasty. I want everyone to know that this has been on the radar of the mayor since he's been in office, and All of you have heard some horrible story about a tree that has lifted up the cement sidewalk, creating trip hazards and concerns of liability. Finally, it's going to be addressed. And we have our partner in Albany to thank for that. And our state senator, Pedro Monroe, in convincing our mayor to put his money where it belongs. But I want to talk to you tonight briefly about participatory budgeting. We're going to have 3 programs where you're going to have an opportunity to learn more about how I can give you back your own tax dollars. $1 million will be allocated into grants that you choose are best for our neighborhoods. No less than $50,000 for capital projects. Schools, libraries, parks, community centers, things that are important to you. It's going to be done through a survey. I encourage you to be a part of this. The dates are October 3rd at the 45th Precinct Council meeting, so we'll be back here. Friday, October 4th at the Bronx House, and Thursday, October 8th at the Villa Barone. Please attend. It's important that you get a say on where your tax dollars go. It comes out of my budget, and rather than guess, you have an opportunity here to explain what's important to the needs of your neighborhood and how you meet those needs. Anyone have any questions on this? October 3rd, 7:30 p.m., October 4th, 7 p.m., October 8th, 7 p.m. And to piggyback on the 4-5 precinct, you were right on the money. There was 3, we're broken into 3 sectors. Most of the precincts in the city have 4 sectors to begin with. And we're partially to blame for all of this. If you get my newsletter, there's a whole flyer on this. Every crime that goes unreported will lead to less police and more crime. Every car break-in, every stolen mirror, every damaged property, every theft, no matter how small it is, that goes unreported, will yield less police officers. It's an injustice to yourselves, your community, your neighbors, and the precinct. So please report every crime. It's important that you do so we don't experience a loss of 10% to attrition. And we still don't know how many are on leave, and how many are now at the UN addressing all of the policing needs of the leaders of the world that are here visiting. Manhattan's a mess with police officers. I assure you, some are from the 4-5 precinct, and there should be no reflection on our captain. He's doing what he can with what he has, and top down, everybody gets an order, and they have to do what they have to do with. So,
Thank you.
any questions?
Thank you, Councilman.
God bless you. Thank you.
We'll open public participation. Our first speaker is Efrain Gonzalez III.
Can I backtrack a little? On Hard Island.
We'll get to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the board, and of course the community. I am concerned about participation of the public in committee meetings. And I want everyone to know, and this is not something, this is just a request, but I want everybody to hear me out here. When the community boards were made when I was a child, it was about bringing to light issues, and it goes through committees. It doesn't go through every committee, but what we should always remember is that public participation, we should never suppress. We should always make it available so that anyone from the public can speak at a committee, and that, and things have to be done in a timely manner. But what we have to remember is that in Community Board 10, unlike other community boards, community board members, committees, people who attend committees, are not members of those committees, even if they attend every committee meeting. which is something that I believe should change. But we have to make sure that there's always an avenue for the public to speak. Now, it has to be within the content of what is being put out. It's not just to come out and start something, because sometimes people should just address those things at the public meeting. But when it's related to committee items on the agenda, then we should always let that engage there. Before it gets to the public, the general meeting, because the committee is where we hash things out. The committee is where it can be approved or disapproved. And a lot of times, it's how the public's participation on those matters result in that. And the problem is that there's been concern that some people have said that timing, and I know that some committees go on for 2 hours in some places in the city, but some issues require more time than just a regular 45-minute meeting. I've been to community board committee meetings where they've only lasted 20 minutes. Sometimes that's just the way it is. But we should always have that door open. And I hope that everyone looks into that. I don't tell people how to vote. I just tell people, let's just be open to it. The other concern I have is I'm having a concern with the recent influx of drug treatment facilities in the community board. There are attempts, and Oasis and I had a conversation with the Bronx director, and I asked, is Oasis concerned about the community's impact when a 822 program comes in, whether they give methadone or not? And basically, the answer was no, that's not their concern. So if we allow an 822 program to come into the community, even though they say they're not going to do methadone, as long as they get federal approval, they could actually get the passage.
About 20 seconds.
Get the passage to give methadone. So that's something that when people have to pay attention, not only the community board, but the members of the community, it is very serious when we don't pay attention to those things. So those are the two issues that I just wanted to.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you very much. Next up is David Malavolta, and after David is Luana Malavolta. I don't know if you guys want to speak together, or
No, the gentleman go first, John?
did this gentleman go first? Who is this gentleman?
John Sheridan. We do a better overall. That's the one we do.
Sure. Yeah, Mr. Sheridan.
And I'll be with the rest.
Okay. Take that.
Good evening, my name is John Sheridan. I am the chairman of a new committee of the City Island Civic called the Water Safety Committee. As our name suggests, we on the committee focus our attention on water-related issues that affect not only City Island, but surrounding communities, many of which fall within the purview of Community Board 10. I'm talking about Country Club, Edgewater, Park, Silver Beach, Spencer Estates, Locust Point, and Throgsmith. Tonight I have 2 items for this board to consider for its district leads. Number 1, the Bronx, particularly the Northeast Bronx, must be serviced again in a full-time capacity by the officers of the Harbor Patrol Unit of the NYPD. To do this, the Bronx will need a permanent base for Harbor. Number 2, I'm also here tonight to strongly advocate for the creation of a new Neighborhood Coordination Officer, or NCO position, for the Harbor Unit of the NYPD. The NCO idea is a logical extension of Police Commissioner O'Neill's neighborhood policing initiative. My idea is to extend the Commissioner's idea to a permanent base for Harbor Patrol in the Bronx. By teaming up with the existing NCOs of the 45th Precinct this summer, officers from Harbor were able to coordinate law enforcement strategies that had a significant impact on water safety and quality of life issues in and around Eastchester Bay. Issues that have plagued our communities for the past 3 summers. Issues such as music blasting from boats and jet skis that have been equipped with waterproof wall-to-wall speakers from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. And some of these same boaters have even been observed covering and are attempting to cover their boat registration numbers as well as their vehicles' names. Now, if all these guys and girls were looking for was a good time, then why this subterfuge? In addition to these observations, jet ski operators have been observed performing lewd sexual acts before throngs of people on shore while being videotaped and egged on by the crowds. Now, I understand that these requests need to be supported by hard data, but please, not 311 data, and let me tell you why. For years, 311 operators have been trained to ask for cross streets where they do not exist, i.e. in the water. Consequently, calls regarding some of the bad boating behavior that I have just detailed have not been logged. The data that should be consulted instead is the harbor unit's logs for this summer's Bronx detail. In addition to those, the summons logs of the 45th precinct should be consulted, especially those logs containing the summonses issued in and around the Everest Marina area this past summer. The numbers in both places tell the story of what is possible when officers are on land and in the water work together with concerned residents in their respective neighborhoods. Finally, this board should know that the Bronx was not always without a permanent station for Harbor Patrol, as members of this board can attest. Dire financial circumstances brought about draconian cuts in service, but the financial circumstances around here are not so dire anymore, and the draconian cuts were supposed to have been temporary, not the basis for Harbor. It is time to right this wrong and reintroduce a permanent station for the officers of the Harbor Unit of the NYPD in the Bronx. One whose function it would be, first and foremost, to patrol the waterways of our borough, working with land-based Bronx precincts to keep residents safe and secure. Thank you.
Now, I gave you 30 extra seconds in the hopes that Mr. Malavolta, Mrs. Malavolta, and Mrs. Sutherland will defer their speaking. If you guys still want to speak, or do you think that Mr. Sheridan, do you have that statement, please? Do we have that statement? That when you read? We have it for the record. Thank you. And I'm hoping that based on giving more time, the three of you don't need to speak, or do you need to speak?
No, I want you to hear.
Okay. You are.
It's the Harbor Patrol.
You are.
It's important. I'm
Luana? Okay, Luana,
Thank you so much.
you got 2 minutes, and you got 2 minutes.
Okay.
He took extra time.
The problem, we do need Harbor Patrol. We have Eastchester Bay. Eastchester Bay is the spine of our community. And we have had so many problems. Whenever you think you hear music, you don't know where it's coming from, it's coming from Eastchester Bay. So we got Harbor Patrol to help. And we were very successful as civilians this year. The real problem, and the reason why no one acknowledges it, and I'm sorry that that chief left, because I would like to say to him, and I would like the board members to tell him, that when you call 311 on water noise, they can't, it doesn't come up, it's not in their dialogue box.
We talked about this yesterday.
All right. Listen, Joe, I knows, we've been bringing it up. It is not in 311, okay? So, if they're looking at statistics, you've lost thousands and thousands and thousands of complaints in their statistics. So you need to tell them that. And 311 needs to be fixed. So that's another problem. And we want a permanent boat there. We have Orchard Beach. Do you know how many boroughs have less and they have permanent boats? We need a permanent boat, and we need what the NCOs. All right. You know what? I'm gonna give it back over. David releasing to Ms. Shane.
Maria, okay.
Maria, yes.
Maria, you got 2 minutes.
Yes, and I'm not going to repeat everything that everyone else said, because I know we have a long agenda. But what I would like to add, first of all, is I want to thank Captain Frazier, because if it wasn't for Captain Frazier this year, the 45th precinct, he pushed the Harbor Patrol for the first time in 3 years. 3 years we have been dealing with this. The first time in 3 years, we had a police captain who actually insisted that Harbor Patrol get involved. And it's about time, because we have been haunted by this and held victims by it for 3 years. What I would like to add is just some of the other things that have been going on, because I think it's important for you to know. We have boats rafting up in Eastchester Bay with hundreds of people on them. You can ask the Harbor Patrol officers, they have photos.
hundreds of people. There are definitely not enough life preservers for hundreds of people, and they're all drinking all day long. You can go by in your own boat and you can see them. It's dangerous. The boats are charging from $50 to $100 a head to provide a full day of dancing, drinking, and boating, okay? Jet skis are going by with women on the back who are clearly intoxicated. They're going 70 to 80 miles an hour in an effort to dump the women off the back, and then when the women fall off the back, the jet skis circle around the women and laugh at them as they struggle there in the water. Okay? Yeah, they're trying to like create wakes around them, right? It's a very, very dangerous situation. The other things that they're doing is they are also operating after dark. I don't know if you know, but jet skis have no running lights. So when they operate after dark, they're not only endangering themselves, they're endangering other boaters. Now, Eastchester Bay, the Hutchinson River, there's commercial traffic that goes through there with tugboats and barges. There are fishing boats that go out all day and night. So this is a dangerous situation. Not in addition to the noise, there is danger there that needs to be addressed. Last week alone, we had a jet ski just crash into a boat at the end of the Morris Yacht Club, and then it took off. It was literally a boat hit and run. Okay, last year, someone died at Evers Marina. I mean, how much more do we have, how much life do we have to lose before we can get a permanent, year-round harbor patrol station in the Northeast Bronx? We already have a ferry service run by Department of Corrections that goes to Hart Island. The boat can be docked there. Any sort of armaments can be secured there. We have it there. We just need the extension of police commissioners, NCO program to continue in the Bronx. Thank you very much.
I don't need to speak. These two speakers were more than enough.
Thank you.
Please consider what they said.
Absolutely. Next up, Mr. Giulio Cementelli. Yeah, 3 minutes.
I got 2. Why does he get 3?
Mrs. Sheridan took your time.
Good evening, my name is Cementelli, Giulio Cementelli. I object to resolution submitted by the Municipal Service Committee in reference to Coop Cab Service. They abuse their privilege, they abuse their parking privileges all the time. Was it municipal? Yes. Yes. They abuse their parking privileges, they park in the residential area. Cabs are not supposed to be there overnight. Years ago, I believe there was some sort of agreement with the company itself that they would park along Parkway. Or, I'm sorry, not Parkway, across from the park, right, Country Club side. They have not done that. If you go around at night, you'll find cabs all over the place. So I wish that this committee, unfortunately, I came in a few minutes late to the municipal meeting, and they already had heard them, but I did make my comments, which I don't see it here, but I hope that this committee considers that, or some sort of stipulation before you approve it. Second of all, I also object to the fact that the committee chairperson has the option to turn around and either let the public speak, deny the public speak, and the third option, discretionary. I don't think none of these, the chair people of these committees should have the right for discretionary. We do, it's objective, first of all. Some of these chair people, I love them all, but, sometimes we don't see eye to eye. And for them to give them the authority to have discretionary powers to deny someone from speaking or not is not just. The committee is there to acquire information and report to the full board. So if you don't hear the public, how could they present anything objective to the board? So also in addition, while we're at it, Mr. Chairperson, and this is your first meeting, congratulations, right? You changed the meeting. Is it in the first general? Is it second? Second. Oh. And you changed the meeting from the third Monday. The executive board to the third. That same week, we have the general meeting, so it does not seem to have enough time there, especially if issues before the executive board was at the beginning of the month, and we knew what the whole month was going to be. And if there was issues raised there was time for people to discuss. And how, you can't discuss an issue that comes out of executive board in 3 days and wind up at the general board. So I don't think that's fair to us. And I also, by the way, I want you to take my other complaint that we haven't had a chance to ask a question to the...
You're over time, by the way.
All right? Well, thank you,
Thank you.
but thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alma Ederhan from Bronx Healthy Start. After Alma will be Lou Rocco. And again. We're not debating people.
No, I just want to say that I took into consideration, I'm a part of the municipal services committee, and what you said about the cabs being there. And I happened to bump into Freddie. Did you see him after that?
No, I did not.
And he said that it's not all his cabs, and I know for a fact it's not, because when my dad was in extended care, I take the train to Pelham Bay, and the green cars, so it's not just him, it's a lot of other cab cars that are there. So I don't think it's fair to just single him there. I mean, there's other ones that are there.
The Greens are...
We're not debating this. Thank you. Alma, please.
You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. My name is Alma Ederhan, and I'm from the Bronx Healthy Start Partnership at Albert Einstein College of Medicine with the Department of Family and Social Medicine. So I'm here tonight to invite the board, to invite the district manager, to invite the health committee and our precinct commanders to join us on October 10th. And I have these flyers over in the back. And we're actually going to be there because we're going to be strolling for life. One of the things that October 8th, Tuesday, October 8th, my head is weird. And we're going to be strolling for life with members of our Healthy Start Partnership as well as providers and caregivers, because infant mortality across the country, in New York City and in the Bronx, is at ridiculously high numbers. Every year in New York City, we lose about 500 children from birth to a year old or less. And we really don't know exactly all of the issues why for every baby. But right now, in the CD10 and 11 in the Bronx have the highest incidence of infant mortality. So of every 1,000 babies born in this district, we're losing 7 of them. And in District 11, we're losing 9 of them. So every 1,000 babies born, and unfortunately, or however you may want to think of it, the Bronx does not have the most babies every year. We have maybe the 3rd highest amount of newborns. And we're losing over 100 of those every year. And so we need to understand why. And so when we raise the case that infant mortality is high in this area, folks will say, no, it's not. You mean South Bronx. You mean East Fremont. You mean Cardona. No. Pelham Parkway, Morris Park, Williamsbridge, Co-op City. And so with the help of your district, we're going to be having this, what we're calling Stroll for Life at the Amendola Plaza and right at Pelham Bay Station. And we hope that you'll join us because we need to not only raise the awareness so people know that in the community, because most people I say that to say, not in my neighborhood, yes it is. We need to acknowledge that and understand what we need to do together to make a difference. Because we cannot continue to lose babies as well as mothers. Otherwise, friends, we will all go the way of the dinosaur very soon. So please think about joining us on that day and what we're going to be doing. We'll be giving away strollers to moms who don't have and have them march around the park with a call response chant. Every baby deserves to have their first word, their first step, their first day in school, to graduate from the school, to be president. And these deaths, for the 99% of them, are preventable. So we really need to understand what are some of the causes, as well as what do we need to do together to make those changes. So please join us Please invite moms with babies to come and stroll around so that we can actually talk about what's driving the deaths and what we need to do. So we are going to be there from 9:30 to 11. So it's a very short period. We'll be marching with strollers during the call response. We will stop to acknowledge the baby's loss by releasing balloons. And then we'll continue to march and then be able to celebrate the babies that are present. And the families that are there. So please join us, invite moms to come out and let us try to figure out how do we save our babies and how do we strengthen our families here in the district.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker is Bob Press, Robert Press.